Hello everyone and welcome to week 10 of Unit 3. So last week we worked on understanding the Unit 3 assignment. So remember, this is our persuasive research essay, and the main objective of the persuasive research essay is to identify a controversial issue as well as a skeptical audience, and to try to find some common ground with that skeptical audience and to attempt to persuade them using that that common ground. So therefore this week, now that we have somewhat further identified which issue we would like to explore, you are now going to further define your skeptical audience using various techniques of audience analysis and various tools. You are also going to be conducting within your audience analysis activities, other minor activities using warrants, claims, and reasons. So we're building on some of the assignments and lessons we have learned in Unit 1 and Unit 2. So we've learned how to structure an essay around claims and warrants. So remember, in Unit 1, we learned how to analyze the assumptions and warrants of an audience. So now in Unit 3, you are going to try to use your own assumptions and your own warrants within your own essay. You are also going to be evaluating the credibility of your research sources in relation to the skeptical audience that you have chosen to attempt to persuade within your controversial issue. And you'll be learning how to evaluate that use of evidence to match a reason or a specific warrant. So your assignments for this week are to please watch this video and PowerPoint. And within your Topak textbook, read starting from the section Audience-Based Reasoning and Assumptions, Logos, Claim Types, until Dialogical and Invitational Strategies. And we'll discuss what dialogical strategies means next week. And that's in relation to the organization of an essay and an argumentative strategy style. So you have 3 main assignments due this week. Those are the audience analysis and discussion of audience-based reasons. Those are both due Wednesday, October 21st. So please get those in. One is a discussion and one is a major assignment. And then you have one due Friday, discussing a persuasive research essay example. This is also a discussion. So you are evaluating a student example essay and you are analyzing how the student author attempts to appeal to a resistant audience. What kind of strategies do they use? What kind of techniques that we have studied so far? And then I've also included this assignment on here so that you have a heads up. So as I stated before, you do have about 2 Monday assignments so far in the next 2 weeks. So this one is due Monday, October 26th, and this is your annotated bibliography. So towards the end of this week and through this week, you want to start thinking of what kind of resources you want to start using to attempt to persuade your resistant audience. And I'll discuss that at the end of the video as well, an intro to week 11. So audience analysis. Your main assignments for this week are to figure out who your resistant audience or your skeptical audience is going to be for this assignment. So again, I'm going to reiterate, you have chosen a controversial issue. You now need to choose what skeptical audience you're going to attach that controversial issue with. So if we think back to the PowerPoint I posted last week, you have a believer audience, and at the other end of that audience is a resistant audience, correct? So we've already worked with a believer audience in Unit 1, a neutral audience in Unit 2. We're now working with that resistant audience. And with this resistant audience, because they are so resistant to your believer stance, so you believe this stance in your controversial issue, you need to find that common ground, that shared assumptions and values that you might possibly in any shape or form share with them to attempt to persuade them. So therefore, your first 2 assignments this week, the audience analysis activity and the discussion, are you figuring out your audience and trying to figure out some audience-based reasoning or logos to attempt to persuade them. So therefore, the most important rhetorical strategy, so again, we're discussing rhetorical skills, rhetoric, is to understand your skeptical or resistant audience. And you can do that through several questions. And there are actually further questions under the heading audience analysis in your textbook that I highly encourage you to look at, especially if you're not sure what questions to ask when thinking of your resistant audience and their assumptions and belief systems. But some you might want to start thinking about are, why do they, the resistant audience, think differently than you do about this issue from your stance? What reasons might they find persuasive? Why might they find these reasons persuasive? And why don't you find these reasons persuasive as well? Because remember, you guys are on opposite sides of this audience spectrum. So what's the difference? What assumptions do they make? What values, beliefs, principles, and attitudes do they hold that you need to be aware of as you are crafting this argument, as you are looking for sources in your research? What kind of evidence and sources do they find appealing and trustworthy? So this is in relation to you creating that common ground. Remember, so while you are going to be providing your stance in this essay, at least half of the essay is going to be you attempting to create this common ground and demonstrating that you understand their values, you understand their belief systems and their stance on this issue. You recognize it, you've done the research on it, you know about their stance. And after you have demonstrated that in your essay, then you can provide evidence and support to show that, to support your stance on the issue. And that is what we call common ground. So we have an example of how you might go about finding these different kinds of audiences or reasons and assumptions. So going about this audience-based reasoning. And this is also in your textbook from where I'm pulling the examples. So you can reference it there in more detail as well. So the examples are in relation to the Joker movie. So we have 3 possible different resistant audiences for the Joker movie in relation to 3 different reasons and assumptions why people might not have liked the Joker movie. So those who did not like the movie, in comparison to your believer stance that the Joker movie was absolutely amazing. So their reasons and assumptions might have been the Joker movie glorified violence. So person number 1 said this. Person number 2 said the Joker made a direct correlation between mental health and criminality, which is an unethical position. Person number 3 said Joker was marketed as part of the DC Comics franchise, yet it had little to do with the comic book series and the previous versions of Batman. So these are 3 different people, 3 different assumptions, and 3 different resistant audiences. So this is what you need to consider because you are going to be choosing one resistant audience. So who are you going to appeal to? Whose specific assumptions are you going to appeal to in your essay? That's what you need to consider when choosing your resistant audience in correlation with your controversial issue. And then claim types. So we're going to do a brief review of this in the PowerPoint. So as we've discussed, you are making a claim in your essay, always. Your theme is inherently a claim. It is your overall larger umbrella claim in your essay. Think of it as a roadmap. It directs the rest of your essay. It directs the reader to what you will be discussing throughout your essay. However, you make smaller claims throughout your essay, right? These are also referred to as reasons. A reason is a subclaim. And there are different types of these claims that you can use throughout your essay. And these different claims have different intentions. They have different purposes and uses in your essay. And I'll explain more what that means in a bit. So we have 5 different kinds of claim types, and some are more appropriate for this essay than others. So the first kind of claim type is the definition argument. So you want to consider with this, in which category do these things belong? So if you look on the right side of this slide, I've also included examples of these. When analyzing what kind of claim types these are, you also want to look for key words, which I've bolded and italicized. So definition, you are defining this claim within a category. So for example, is solitary confinement cruel and unusual punishment? So they're asking a yes or no question. Is it within this category of punishment? Yes or no? It's a definition claim. Resemblance arguments. To what thing is this similar? Is investing in the stock market like gambling? So keyword like, it's a comparison. Causal arguments. What are the causes or consequences of this event? So what might be the consequences of raising the minimum wage? So this one might be a bit more obvious. Evaluation arguments. What is the worth or value of this thing? So causal and evaluation sometimes get a bit mixed and sometimes they'll be put together, but you do need to kind of figure out how to separate them. So evaluation arguments. What is the worth? What is the value within this argument? Is talk therapy a good approach for treating anxiety? So there you see the good word, the key word. It's a qualifying word, so that we see that adjective there. And then proposal arguments. Should we take this proposed action? So keyword should. Should the federal government enact a carbon tax? Proposal arguments, proposal claims are not the best ones to use for the Unit 3 essay. You do not want to propose a should argument to a resistant audience. It is somewhat boxing your resistant audience in. They will feel pressured to accept your arguments. They will feel like you're placing a lot of responsibility on them to focus on this argument. It's just not the best claim type to place within your argument, either within an umbrella thesis or within your subclaims. So to further explain this, how you might use this within your argument, resemblance arguments, for example. So comparison arguments, comparison claims. When you're searching for evidence, for example, let's say you chose a topic and there's not a ton of research out there. You might think, hey, okay, here's a topic, but there's not a ton of research. What other topic out there is similar to this argument that has a ton of research on it, that's out there and available? And I could use that research and say, this is a similar topic, let's say a medical issue. It's a similar medical issue, and I want to use this research to support my claim. You can do that. You can make a resemblance claim, a resemblance argument, and say this is similar, it has similar research, and therefore you make a resemblance claim. And that's an example of how you might incorporate a different kind of claim type within a subclaim of your argument, or within your thesis claim as well. And here's a further review of claim types in relation to your resistant audiences. So as you explore your issue, different claims and reasons, as well as skeptical or resistant audiences, consider the rhetorical strategy of claim types to help you. They provide you with several different categories to place your own argument, as I've explained. You can use the claim type strategy to clarify audience-based reasons and to consider the differences between your claim and those of your skeptical or resistant audience. So comparing these claim types may help you figure out a point of common ground. So if we look at the chart, which is also in your text, here's an example. So remember, yours is the believer position, the believer stance, and then your skeptical audiences is the resistor stance, resistant. So for the definitional claim type, we have online learning is a type of education. So what might your audience, resistant audience, say in relation to this? They might say online learning is a form of training, not education. Moving on to resemblance. For students, taking online expository writing classes is similar to how they use social media. And then Your skeptical reader might say, online learning is the same as correspondence courses from the 1960s. Basically, what this chart is doing, it's a brainstorming session. So what you might want to do when crafting your essay and brainstorming is write all of your position on one side of the chart, your believer claim types. And then you might want to just think about what your skeptical reader, your resistant audience might possibly have to say in relation to all these different claim types. Many students find this very helpful, this activity, and I highly encourage you to do it on your own. And then finally, we have an intro to week 11, because remember, we have that Monday assignment coming up in a week. So that is a weekend assignment, and I will open that up in Canvas so that you can start it early during the week. And I will also remind you of it within my next PowerPoint a week from now. So researching sources, the STAR method. So your assignment that is due next Monday is the annotated bibliography. And remember, for the Unit 3 essay, you must incorporate a minimum of 5 outside sources. And one of these sources needs to be a peer-reviewed resource. What do I mean by that? It must be an academic journal or article that has been reviewed by a peer or well-known academic resource or academic, another academic journal. So you might use the K-State Library database to find this peer-reviewed journal, or for your other sources. And to help get you started with this, we actually have a module on our Canvas page. So on our Canvas page, there's a module titled, Library Research Sources and the Writing Center. So if you're looking for credible resources, I suggest you start here. And I will show you how, actually. I will share my screen with you in a moment. Okay, so if we scroll down, so as you see here, we have the Unit 3 module. We'll scroll down, we have Library Research Resources and Writing Center. And then if you click on the link, Library 200, or English 200 Library Research Guide, and then we'll click again, it directs you to the Kansas State University Libraries page. And this page has been created specifically for the English 200 course. And it just gives you an overview of how to narrow your topic, how to properly research and cite sources. It actually directs you to a librarian also. If you find you're having trouble identifying resources or narrowing your topic, speak to a librarian. They're always available to help students, and they actually want to. So they're always available to make an appointment. So as you see here, you can click on the various links. It has video tutorials. So if you want to use books, for example, you may, or a chapter from them. They have interlibrary loan, Google Books. It also shows you the best sites for articles, to find articles. Popular databases for scholarly articles, which is the type of articles you ideally would want to use, especially for a peer-reviewed resource. So here are some popular ones: ProQuest, Research Library, Diversity Database Suite. You also want to make sure that the resources you use are, before you wait till the last minute, check if they're online, or if you have to request them through interlibrary loan, because then they can get you a copy, and they're usually pretty quick, but you don't want to wait till the last minute. So definitely make sure you check up on that. And then again, remember the STAR method as you are researching your sources. So sufficiency, typicality, accuracy, and relevancy. Remember to make sure your resources are credible. And as always, if you have any questions, I am here to help all of you. Please visit me during office hours. If you further want to brainstorm your controversial issue or your resistant audience.